One way that you could operate in life is by assuming that everyone is doing their best all the time. I think that's really hard. I think I've talked before about expectations and how if you don't have expectations or you have like really low expectations all the time, that can help, that can assist in just being happier. um, because you aren't your standards are low, and then when people screw up you're like, yeah, I expected that. I didn't expect you to actually be able to complete that task the way that you should have been able to complete that task. Like, that makes sense that you screwed up because that's whatever. It's kind of like the opposite of when you make promises and you're supposed to under promise over deliver, right? When you commit to things, that's a good strategy for life. Yeah, but I think that there's problems with expectations or never having any or having them so low. I think there's positives and negatives, but I think I talked about that already. But this is kind of adjacent in that if you assume everyone is doing their best all the time, then there's some cool stuff that happens, I think. But I have a hard time with it. So here's the thing. If you assume everyone is doing their best all the time, then I think that it allows for a lot more forgiveness, a lot less stress, a lot less anxiety, a lot less anger and frustration. Takes up less energy, I think, to live that way and just to be like, yeah, they're doing their best, and I make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. I guess they're doing their best, and that's them. That's their best. That's the best they could possibly do. You can't ask more of someone than them doing their best. The problem is you put standards on someone and expectations on, like, you should be, or judgments, you should be able to do better. Your best should be better. And I think, again, for me, that is so natural to do that, like, yeah, I can tell that person's not doing their best because X, Y, Z, right? Because of ABC. List the reasons that I think that person is not doing their best, which doesn't really make much sense. Doing your best changes from day to day is another thing. My best today may not be my best tomorrow, and there's so many factors as to why. Maybe something happened that prevented me from sleeping well, or maybe I couldn't. Someone stole my lunch and I didn't eat that day, and I didn't sleep because some outside force of nature, something happened and woke me up, and I couldn't fall back asleep through no fault of my own. And like, so you can just be at a disadvantage in your day through no fault of your own, and that might prevent you from being at your best. You can try your best that day, but if you are at a deficit to start with, your best that day, if we use a scale of 1 to 10, being like, if everything is going right and everything is perfect, and my best, I'm a 10 out of 10 that day, but when I'm at a deficit of -5, maybe my best that day is a 5, a +5. Maybe that's the best I can do that day, and that sucks. But that's the best I can do. So it's interesting to operate that way and to live life assuming everyone's doing their best all the time. Because then you can't measure how good they should be able to do that day, right? Unless you know that person intimately. And that also changes things a lot. I think this is a strategy that helps a lot with strangers, and being able to forgive people that are maybe causing you extra work or stress or anxiety or just problems that people are causing you that you wish that they didn't, and they're human errors. But again, everyone makes mistakes, and their best that day might have been to making that error was still them doing their best that day. Again, if you're starting the day with a deficit, you might make more mistakes than normal. And maybe that person wouldn't have made the mistake otherwise, but they started the day with a deficit for whatever reason. And there you are. They're making a mistake that you have to deal with. And that's difficult for me to deal with problems that other people create, human-made errors. Even though I allow myself to make errors, and I allow other people to make errors, but there's a certain judgment that happens for some reason at certain points with certain errors that I'm like, why did that happen? it's because you overlooked this, you didn't think long enough about it, whatever. But if I just say, I guess that was the best they could do that day, I can't ask for more, that kind of allows that to just feel, I feel better about that. It allows it to just wash away much quicker. I think you can operate that way most of the time. The problem is you need to set a boundary too. You need to be able to be like, okay, that person is not doing their best with me. Or if or you have to say that person's best isn't good enough. I don't know which way to swing it. If you can say that person isn't doing their best, they are severely mistreating me, they are taking me for granted, I know that I deserve better, I think that they are capable of better, I know them intimately, I know their history and their present and what they're going through as much as I can know that. Obviously, you're not living them. You aren't in their heart and mind, but you could talk to them and they could tell you things and you can observe things as well and make those judgments. And you could say, that person is not treating me as well as I deserve to be treated. I think they are capable of better. I deserve better. They used to treat me better, maybe, whatever. So why can't they now? Because X, Y, Z. That's why they can't. Okay, give them some time. Whatever, right? But there's a boundary you have to set because there has to be something. You can't just say everyone's doing their best all the time. Or maybe you can. Here, let's explore that. Let's just say everyone's doing their best all the time. I don't think that's true. I think there are times where there's times where it's just like you get lazy and you're just like, I know that my best would mean getting up right now and doing this thing. That would be me at my best. But man, I just didn't fight. I didn't use enough willpower. I didn't fight hard enough to get up off the couch and do this thing that I need to do. And I wasted a whole hour. So I don't do my best every time. But then it's like, who's to say that again, I have to evaluate some days that bit of rest or whatever, or laziness or wasting time, if you want to call it that, of rest and recuperation is needed. But for me, it needs to be purposeful. So I have to evaluate. That doesn't, me taking 5, me having a rest is necessary for me to be productive, be more efficient, right? You can't just go all the time. You will burn out, you will waste more time, you will get ill, all those things. Whereas if I get enough sleep, if I'm alert, if I take some time to rest here and there, then I can make more of the time that I am working. But you're making a judgment on a day-to-day basis of how much can I rest or whatever. Is this me at my best or not? And you put those judgments on others too. So if you just assume everyone's at their best all the time, even though you aren't your best all the time, but you could manipulate that and say, I'm at my best all the time. Like I really am trying my best. Just today I just didn't do as much as I did yesterday. That's a fact that happens. That is reality. Okay, let's run with that. Then when someone is doing their best, that doesn't mean you excuse their behavior. Again, there's a difference between maybe forgiveness and being at peace and accepting someone's failures to do things, like maybe treat you the way you should be treated. But it doesn't mean you have to accept that behavior continuing. You can accept that is a behavior that exists and that's just what's happening, but you don't have to subject yourself to it anymore. I think this whole notion of just assume everyone's doing their best, I mean, really what it is about for me is coming to terms when people are really screwing things up and making your life more difficult. How do you do that? How do you do that in a way that's not aggressive and angry and frustrated and stressed, right? It's just being able to accept, yeah, that person's doing their best and that's just, I can't ask anything else from them. If they're at their best and their best is still causing me problems, I have to remove myself from the situation and I have to set boundaries. That's just what I have to do. Acknowledging that people or someone in particular is doing their best all the time does not mean you have to stick around for that when it is dragging you down or limiting you from achieving what you need to achieve. If someone's best is limiting you from doing your best, I think that you need to cut ties with that person, right? There's an ebb and flow with certain relationships where someone's in a better place and they can help you up. And when you're in a better place, you can help them up. But you should never be dragging someone down. And someone shouldn't be dragging you down, right? If you're both in a bad place, then you should still be able to lift each other up and support each other, right? If we're talking about just two people in a relationship of any kind, familial, romantic, sibling, best friends, whatever. you should not be in a pattern or a habit or a relationship that is impacting someone else negatively, right? Whether it be you or you're doing that to someone else. So, sure, let's assume that everyone's doing their best. We could follow that, but still say, you don't have to be there for it. That person doing their best, that's great. But if it is limiting you from doing your best, limiting you from being at your best with your mental health, physical health, emotional health, then you need to find a way to have that conversation to see if this is maybe a temporary thing that you can help them work through, or if not, you may need to exit that relationship in order for you to maintain yourself being at your best as possible.